performances, and of course, we give the honors to the winning side. Puka Nacua and Matt Stafford were pretty good last night, too. But with the victors go the spoils. It's an insane game, and it changes everything in the NFC. Instead of the Rams being what would have been a near lock to win the 1 seed, Seattle is now in the driver's seat to grab that top spot, but they're far from a shoo-in. Bottom line of it is this. The 49ers play the Colts on Monday Night Football. If the 49ers win that game, they will be in a position to win out and play every game in their home stadium. Their last 2 regular season games are at home. The second one is against Seattle. That would be for the number 1 seed, which means they would play 2 home games in the playoffs if they got that far. And the Super Bowl is in their stadium. So I feel like San Francisco, because of the injuries, has been sort of the overlooked team in all of this. And at this moment, Seattle has taken control.
Yeah, look, the 49ers are laying in the weeds, but those 2 games are against the Seahawks and the Bears. So we'll see. It's a Sunday night affair with the Bears, and you got to do it. The Seahawks last night showed us a lot, and they showed us how they can overcome digging out of a hole. They were down 16 points with 9 minutes left. If you didn't see the game and you're waking up this morning, it was simply the craziest game of the NFL season. But Sam Darnold also looked terrible 3 quarters to the game.
Right.
We were all writing his obituary as an NFL quarterback, and he found a way to dig himself out as well. I thought they showed
on the game that got flexed to Sunday night for the 1 seed. On the road. It could easily be exactly the same scenario this time in San Francisco. So if you're his teammate this morning, do you wake up feeling like Darnold finally got that albatross off of his back and now he becomes the guy we can trust?
Yeah, I think he needed that, but also just the supporting cast. You talked about Shaheed and how important it is because so often we talk about, offense, defense, but we always fail to talk about special teams. And now with the new rules, special teams is the equalizer because it flips the field. And it changes and puts pressure on other people. And, Shaheed is so great as a returner. And that's what you never do. You never kick the ball. It can't get more middle of the field. That gives you access. If you had a return left on, you had a return right on, it's all live. You have to kick the ball to sides against great punt returners, and you never serve it up in the middle of the field.
So the best teams don't always win.
No.
The Seahawks deserve all the credit in the world for one of the guttiest wins that we've seen in the NFL this year and in recent memory.
Right.
That said, I think everyone emerges from the game saying, the Rams sort of feel like the better team. They still feel like the best team. But having to go on the road, which now they most likely will, and win 3 road playoff games, do you think they do that?
So you told me the last 2 quarterbacks to do it were who?
So the only 2 wild card teams, meaning no home games in the playoffs at all, to make the Super Bowl in the last 15 years were Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, who did it in Tampa.
Well, 2 phenomenal quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Guess who else is a phenomenal quarterback?
Stafford in that
Matthew
category.
Stafford.
Right
I was a part of that Aaron Rodgers win when I had the number 1 seed for the Atlanta Falcons, and they squeaked into the playoffs.
Saturday night,
they went scores.
Great units, but it's one of those units can cost you majorly. Missed the field goal and horrible coverage teams. So that's something that they're not strong at, and it can cost you in the playoffs.
You're a Rams
cost
fan.
them the game versus the Eagles, too.
It did. If you're a Rams fan, you go to sleep knowing McVay had a baby on Monday. McVay was deathly ill last week. You come in without Devontae Adams, and by the way, you had this huge controversy throughout the day where both the player and the team have to put out statements and apologize, and you still had them down 16 in their building with 9 minutes. I think you go to sleep knowing that. But I will say this. Stafford's 37. Devontae Adams didn't get any younger. His hamstring's hurting. You've got an older team on offense and those stars there where now if you've got to go on that road and do 3 road games and then the Super Bowl, it's a lot different than having that first round bye.
Yeah, the extra game. We've talked about how loaded the NFC is all year long. Only one team winds up getting that bye. Will it be Seattle? Will it be San Francisco? Will it be Chicago? If the Bears win tomorrow night, it's this Friday, losing track of the days. If the Bears win tomorrow night, suddenly we have to have that conversation. They need to be in this mix.
I am astounded that they continue to get these turnovers at this clip. We always think that the horseshoe is going to fall out of their pocket.
They lead the league in takeaways.
It continues. And Ben Johnson is one of the most creative run coordinators that you think about. You think about the power runs. And in the playoffs, you need to pack your defense, turnovers, extra possessions, but you have to run the football.
Quick final word.
No, I just love the simple fact that how the culture has been changed in Chicago. This is the physical football team offensively, something that they worked the last few years.
Let's see how the Packers defense responds without Micah Parsons. I think it's the biggest loss that's not a quarterback in this entire NFL season.
Hey, you look at about 4 or 5 teams in that NFC playoff picture that are
overtime. Now, after the Rams score first, Sam Darnold leads the Seattle offense down the field for a responding touchdown and 2-point conversion, sealing the 38-37 comeback win for the Seahawks. Seattle had just a 1.2% win probability after Sam Darnold threw his second pick down 16 with just under 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Seattle was 0-155 when trailing by 16 or more in the fourth quarter entering this game. Cam, your thoughts on Seattle going for 2 with about 4 minutes remaining in overtime there?
That was the right call, and it had to be had. I think it was extremely gutsy. One of the things that each of the, members that's sitting across from you can understand, when you have the momentum, when you understand how the flow of the game is going, and you realize that the person that's on that sideline on the opposing team has thrown for close to 500 yards, you start to say, hold on. I don't have more confidence in our defense to stop them, because now at this particular point in time, a field goal could win. When you start to factor in all these type of factors, going for 2 was the right the right play to be had. Now, the thing, as you start to say, I was a little suspicious. I thought maybe they would have run, given the circumstances of how Sam Darnold was playing up until this point. An absolute amazing game by him in the fourth quarter. But the NFL is created to have games like we saw last night. Extremely tight, extremely close, and it to be decided in a one-possession type of game or decision like we saw. And shouts out goes to the Seattle Seahawks for really executing at the end to find a much-needed win for them.
Yeah, I love the decision to go for 2. It was the only decision to be made. You had lost earlier in the year to the Los Angeles Rams. So a tie, if the game would have ended in a tie, would not have benefited Seattle. But then also, why would I give, even if I want to tie the ball game, why would I want to give the ball back to Matthew Stafford, who's thrown for over 400 yards, and Puka Nacua, who had 225 yards and a touchdown in that game, so they can go down and kick a field goal and win it? So it was the only decision to make.
They told you it might have been the game of the year. Seattle changes everything. Instead of the Rams being nearly a lock to win the 1 seed, Seattle is now in the driver's seat, but they're certainly not a shoo-in. The 49ers play on Monday night against the Colts. If they win that game, they then would finish with 2 home games. If they win out, they win the division. They win the 1 seed because they play Seattle in that final game. And it's actually an interesting little note. The road to the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl would be in their stadium. So they literally, if they win Monday night, they could be in a position to win 5 consecutive games and win the championship, all of them played in their home stadium.
Something that hasn't been done since the Rams did it in 2021. Of course, they didn't go the entire playoffs. They came in as a wild card. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they also did, but no team has gone straight through home all the way. The Niners would be the team to do that.
So, Bart, you started saying you do not think that the team, whichever one it is that does not wind up winning the division, maybe we all think the Rams are the best team. I think that. But you're telling me that if they don't wind up getting that bye week and everything else, you don't think they wind up in the biggest game?
Yeah, I think it's difficult, especially with the hamstring. You rest on the hamstring of Devontae Adams, like Doogie said, right? As you talk about the red zone and how much he was missed, because I think he has 14 touchdown receptions, this year, leads to NFL. It's tough to go on the road and play 3 games, physical games. Playoff intensity is so much different. You talk about not being able to recover. Do you play on that Saturday, or do you play on Sunday, then play on the Saturday, the short weeks again in the playoffs going against better competition? But I would say this, between Seattle and between the Rams, they are the most complete teams. I just can't trust that defense, and the inexperience, the inability to get to the passer when you talk about the San Francisco 49ers.
I disagree. I believe the Los Angeles...
One of the freakish games you'll ever see. It's the first time in NFL history a team threw for 450 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and had a wide receiver go for 225 and lose. And they were up 16 points with 9 minutes left. So you say, well, that's not a big deal. You say you wash it out the window. But the implications are huge. To have to not have a home game, have to not be able to have home throughout the playoffs, to go on the road and have to do that journey, it is so much more difficult now when there's a bye for that 1 seed where they're the only team not having to play that wild card.
Teddy always says, Teddy Bruschi on Sundays, it's the single biggest advantage in sports, in any sport.
You sleep in
There's
your
only
own bed,
one bye.
you wake up, you go to the game, and you get to watch on that first wild card.
Exactly, and there's only the one bye. So what other bets came out of last night? Because you were telling me a lot of things get reshuffled.
The entire market shifted on just about anything. I mean, when you're talking about Offensive Player of the Year, it looked like JSN had that wrapped up. Puka's right behind him in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns right now. I'd still look to JSN. Remember, we got to handicap the voters here. Puka, as you said earlier in the show, a bit of a tumultuous week. How many voters are going to want to go with him? You've got Matthew Stafford MVP. That still looks like it's going to be something that happens right around minus 250. Mike McDonald, Coach of the Year, right up there behind Vrabel right now. Keep an eye on that.
Interesting.
But I'll tell you this. If it comes down to the last week of the year and the San Francisco 49ers, they get that 1 seed, that Coach of the Year should go to Kyle Shanahan.
If they wind up the 1 seed
The
with everything they have lost, but they could.
We just gonna forget about Ben Johnson? We didn't even have the Bears in the playoffs.
But here's the thing. You lost your starting quarterback for multiple games. Your 2 best players and 2 of your highest paid players on defense and your entire team, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa,
Liam Cohen is in Jacksonville waving his hand and saying, guys, what about us? There's a great group this year of candidates.
No question. That Bears game against the Packers, we're going to dive into that as we continue here because that's the next game of the century, right? We had